I apologize for the lack of updates in the past few months, and hopefully I can return to some sort of schedule. I know that I haven't uploaded any video for 3 or 4 months, but now I want to change that, and I think I have the conditions to do so from this point on. And to start the new video of 2020, I would like to do a recap of the socialist years in Portugal, specifically the last 25 years. This is actually going to be based on an article written by João Caetano Dias. Obviously, I will put a link in the description so that you can check that article for yourself. All the information that I'm going to share here is going to be based on that article because it's a really good article that does essentially a summary of just the 25 years of socialism, the last 25 years of socialism. If you've seen my previous videos, you know that socialism is in Portugal, is part of Portugal's life for 45 years, ever since the revolution in 1974, to a point where socialism is even written in our constitution, which is just crazy. But that's what it is in Portugal. And the focus of João Caetano in his article were the last 25 years, and so that's what I'm going to talk about as well. So let's begin. Let's see exactly what socialism has done to this country. So let's start with this graph that shows countries that had their GDPs lower than Portugal GDP in 1995. And as you can see, in 2018, the picture changed quite considerably. This should be already enough for you to understand how harmful socialism is to any country. And in just 25 years, your country will be in shambles, or even less, because they can do it in less. But moving on to the second graph, we have essentially the corporate income tax rates in Europe. And as you can see, only France is worse than Portugal. That's right, the second largest economy in Europe is the only country that is worse in terms of corporate tax income. Portugal, by the way, is one of the poorest and most miserable countries in Europe. So you can see how being compared to France makes no sense from an economic standpoint, or in this case, when comparing corporate tax income. But that's the reality. Only France is worse than Portugal. Every other country in Europe is much better than Portugal. Another great outcome for 25 years of socialism. And then we have a graph that shows essentially the time that is spent by companies in order to pay taxes. And again, we have all sorts of countries in Europe, and as you can see, only 3 countries are worse than Portugal. In terms of bureaucracy, to pay taxes, to do your tax dues, Portugal only has 3 other countries that are worse than it in that regard. Another great conquest of socialism. And then, of course, what every other individual citizen loves to talk about, which is the IRS. And essentially we have here another graph that shows all the other countries in Europe when they are stacked up, and we compare them directly to Portugal. We again see that Portugal is rivaling with the richest countries in Europe in terms of IRS. So Portugal is one of the poorest countries, yet in terms of IRS, we are being compared to the richest countries in Europe. Seems fair, right? This is another example of what socialism does to your country. Very high taxes, very low wages, a completely destroyed country, and a very bleak future, if you have a future at all. And then my favorite graph of them all. As you know, IRS is a progressive tax, meaning that the more you make in terms of your wage, the more taxes you will pay. And you will always have the highest tax bracket, which will be hit by those that really make a lot of money. However, Portugal is the one where you hit that maximum bracket the fastest, meaning that it's in Portugal that you earn the least amount of money to get to the feared 45% IRS tax bracket. Portugal is the worst country in Europe in regards to this type of metric, which is another example of just how destructive socialism is. Because you don't really need to make a lot of money to be taxed to high heaven in Portugal. Yet another amazing consequence of socialism. It destroys your country completely. And Portugal should be the poster child of what you should not do in your country. If you want to prosper, if you want to have a future, if you want your new generations to know that the country where they are born is going to have a future, then definitely don't pick socialism. Because your new generations, if they stay here, which I doubt, they will have a very bleak future. And if they don't want to go through that bleak future, they'll need to go to another country. And that's already happening for a few years now, but in the past 5, 6 years, it's been happening a lot. Lots of talented young people are leaving Portugal to other countries, to countries where they will have a much better chance to actually have their talents be recognized, getting a proper salary, getting proper living conditions, not having to pay through the roof in taxes, having good public services. I mean, that's the least that people need to have good living conditions, but they won't get that in Portugal, especially as socialism continues to be the major political ideology being used. It's just not going to happen. 45 years of this, 3 bankruptcies, I simply don't think that we need any more proof that socialism just doesn't work. And of course, I'm not even going to the other examples in human history where socialism has failed, because it never worked. Up to this day, socialism has never worked. But I don't even need to go to all of those examples in the past and present as well. I don't need them. I just need the Portuguese example. Socialism doesn't work. Socialism transforms your country into a hellhole. You do not want to live here. This is nightmarish. And unless you have, family here, you don't want to move, you can't move, you have very specific reasons that keeps you tied to this country, you do not want to stay here. And finally, we have another example of what socialism does to this country. In the last 4 years, the tax burden rose to almost 35% in Portugal. When compared to other European countries, we are not in the best position. This might not be the same as the previous graph where we are the absolute worst in Europe, but considering that we are so poor and miserable, we should not be in the position that we are. You can see that the countries that are better positioned and with better economic figures are also the ones with a lower tax burden. And of course, Portugal is not one of them. So this is how we start 2020, by knowing that Portugal keeps getting worse and worse. Socialism keeps being chosen again as the political ideology to follow in this country. I think this is the definition of insanity, because the Portuguese people continue to choose that brings them poverty and misery, but somehow are still expecting for something different. They keep choosing the same and still thinking that it will bring them something different. Obviously, this is not just the fault of those that choose socialism when they go to vote. This is also the fault of those that simply do not go to vote. And they essentially allow those that vote, the minority that votes, to continue choosing the future of this country, which makes absolutely no sense, but that's the reality of Portugal. Nothing has changed. And as these graphs show, the past 25 years have been, for Portugal, complete disgrace. Socialism has brought this to us. And we are the ones choosing it, so obviously we are the responsible ones for creating a very bleak future for ourselves. 45 years of this, 3 bankruptcies, the 3rd largest debt in Europe, the 10th largest debt in the world. But here we are again, choosing socialism. Anyway, I know that this is bleak, but it's the reality. Again, I'm sorry for taking so long to upload a new video, but that's life. I can't do better than this at this point. Hopefully it will improve from now on. I hope you like this, and I'll see you next time.